I know that a lot of your work focuses on body burnout. What was your journey with this, and what made you decide that this was the route that you wanted to take to help other people?
I started developing very overachieving patterns where I had to not be the best from a comparinitis point of view, but just I was just really dedicated to getting A's and A pluses, and I was getting external validation from teachers. And I was showing up with a lot of overachieving perfectionism, anxious patterns around my performance. And during that time, my body was starting to speak to me as well. But literally none of the symptoms changed until I started working it on deeper, I call it unconscious baggage or metaphysical beliefs, patterns, trapped trauma in the body that was causing my body systems to freak out and the symptoms to essentially show up. I then started looking into becoming a body-mind coach and a trauma therapist to provide the people that we work with a really beautiful, holistic approach that looks at both the mind and the body together. But it's hang on, what about the people who know what they need to do, but they're struggling to implement? There's some unconscious patterns and beliefs and programming that's preventing that from happening. And also, I was just noticing there were a lot of clients who were following protocols to a T, but we're not budging symptoms at all. And it's there's something deeper happening. At an unconscious level, the body was literally blocking the healing to happen. And so we're going that's why we call it the root cause.
What does it take to be a financially empowered woman? And what can financially empowered women do together to change the world? A shocking statistic is that around 400,000 women in Australia are at risk of homelessness. And the cause of this is the lack of education about how to build a financial foundation, starting even before we first enter the workforce and well into our retirement years. My name's Dion Payne, and I'm the founder of the Financially Empowered Women podcast. I'm passionate about ending homelessness, and as part of that passion, I chose to look at the systemic barriers that are causing homelessness for women in the first place. The Financially Empowered Women podcast is designed to bring you the best experts from around the world to increase your financial know-how and give you practical and women-specific tips to overcome the challenges you might be facing, such as how to negotiate a better salary, demystifying super, or how to navigate a separation and ensure the assets are distributed fairly. My role is to provide you with the best information out there to change your trajectory and become a financially empowered woman, because you deserve it, and the world needs you more than ever to own your worth and help others to do the same.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Financially Empowered Women podcast. My name's Dion Payne. I'm your host for today, and in the studio I'm joined by Filipa Bellette. Let me tell you a little bit about Filipa. Filipa Bellette is co-founder of multi-award-winning health practice Chris and Philly Functional Medicine and author of Ending Body Burnout, a functional medicine guide for busy women with energy, mood and gut issues. She is an accredited clinical nutritionist, functional medicine practitioner, coach and trauma therapist. She is also a PhD scholar and regularly featured in the media such as The Today Show, 9.com.au, Forbes and Body and Soul. Welcome, Filipa.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
It's lovely to have you. Now, I know that a lot of your work focuses on body burnout. What was your journey with this, and what made you decide that this was the route that you wanted to take to help other people?
Yeah, I feel like when someone asks that question, I'm like, where do I start? Do I go all the way back to childhood? I think I'll fast forward to kind of around teenage life. I started developing very I'm not even high achieving, overachieving patterns where I had to not be the best from a comparinitis point of view, but just like I was just really dedicated to getting A's and A pluses, and I was getting external validation from teachers. And I was showing up with a lot of overachieving, perfectionism, anxious patterns around my performance. And during that time, my body was starting to speak to me as well. So a lot of hormonal issues, diagnosed with PCOS, I was back then. But the weirdest thing was I started to develop vasovagal episodes. So that's basically where if my body was under stress, I would faint, fit, and pee myself, which was really embarrassing as a teenager. And that really continued for about 10 years. And along that journey, I also did a PhD. So again, I was putting so much pressure on myself, very much felt imposter syndrome in the university spectre because I was so young, doing a PhD as well. So I'm like, I don't even do I know things? And I felt like I had to try even harder to perform and to put output of work. And then I had my first baby. So at the same day that I got my PhD report back to say that you've passed, I also had a baby. So I had 2 babies on that day. And so that was like a big period of a lot of chronic stress and putting a lot of pressure on myself. My body was already speaking to me, but the birth itself was quite traumatic. So 3-day labor. I had a lot of complications with my bowel and my bladder afterwards. My bladder, basically the nerves, became damaged for a period of time, and I had no sensation to urinate. So I had to have an internal catheter in for about 3 or 4 months to help retrain my bladder. But during that time, because I was sticking all these things up my urethra, and I was also having like bleeding post having a baby, and I was constipated at the same time. I was getting heaps of infections, so lots of antibiotics, and I just felt that every month after I had my baby, I kept accumulating more and more health issues. So I wasn't getting better with time, I was actually getting worse, and just a lot of weird things too. So nothing really showed up on GP blood tests, but I had lots of gut issues, hormone issues, chemical sensitivities, food allergies, sensitivities, chronic body pain, really low immune system. And when Poppy turned 1, I felt like I was an 80-year-old. I'm like, if I don't do anything and I'm not getting help with the medical system, then I don't know where I'm going to end up. And so I started looking into nutrition and like healthy living, and went on that bandwagon and started feeling better, which was great. Really like just dialing in eating healthy foods. At that time, I was just amazed that you could heal your body using real food. I'm like, what? Is that even a thing? Back then, I was just kind of like eating cardboard and, processed foods and that sort of stuff. And I thought that that was healthy and normal. So things improved. And then I had baby number 2. And I actually felt pretty good post that birth. I elected for a C-section because I had a lot of unprocessed trauma around the first birth that I hadn't worked on, and I was just freaking out about the pregnancy and the birth. But because I felt so good, a week or 2 after giving birth, I dove straight back into study and dove straight back into business. And it's like, what can I do and what can I achieve? And then shortly after, all my symptoms came crashing back. And that led me into functional medicine, which is what some of my book is about. And basically that goes beyond GP medical specialist testing. So really doing some functional lab testing to look at different body systems, and then creating therapeutic protocols to support those body systems. And I had so many imbalances. I had heaps of gut pathogens, adrenal fatigue, low dopamine, detox pathways were blocked up. And yeah, again, over time, within a year period, I started feeling better. But I felt like I was still needing to wrap myself up in cotton wool. So it was almost like I had to eat perfectly. I had to make sure my sleep was really dialed in. I couldn't expose myself to toxins, otherwise my body would start showing up with symptoms again. But I was managing, and I felt that I was doing well until COVID happened, and then all my symptoms came raging back because I felt a lot of stress and uncertainty, and financial instability was a big part of that as well. And this time, nothing physical helped the symptoms at all. Like, I ran the same labs. I'm like, oh, my labs actually look pretty good. Maybe I'll just do the supplements. Maybe the labs have missed something. Maybe I will dial back or dial in my diet even more. But like literally none of the symptoms changed until I started working it on deeper, I call it unconscious baggage or metaphysical beliefs, patterns, trapped trauma in the body that was causing my body systems to freak out and the symptoms to essentially show up. So anyway, that was like, that healing journey was probably a 10-year period, and transitioning probably halfway into that, I became a clinical nutritionist, functional medicine practitioner. And then it wasn't until after COVID when I really got to the root cause of my body burnout. I then started looking into becoming a body-mind coach and a trauma therapist to provide the people that we work with a really beautiful, holistic approach that looks at both the mind and the body together.
I love that story, and I've been frantically writing notes because I've had all these questions as you've been talking. I've got to ask you that. I've got to ask you that. I think because I know you, we've known each other since 2021. Was it when we started working in the same business accelerator? So I know some of your journey. So some of these terms I'm quite familiar with, but for people that are listening, I just wanted to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So first of all, what was your birth order? So where were you in your family?
Middle child.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I could have sworn that you were an elder daughter because I'm an elder daughter. There is actually a thing called elder daughter syndrome, which brings up all of that, sort of perfectionism, overachieving, all of that. So yes, I kind of, regardless of what birth order we both are, I recognize that pattern because I've done it myself.
And the pattern showed up around that too. So middle child of 5 kids, youngest daughter, but I also had 2, and I still have 2 amazing older sisters that back then I always felt like I was trying to catch up to them and like trying to be like them. But because they were just older than me, they got to do more things because of their developmental age. And so I always felt left out. So I feel like the going deep into academia was my way. You know what? Actually, no, college. So what do you guys call college, like year 12s and 11 scores? Is it ATAR? Yeah, okay. So ATAR. We call it something different. I can't even remember what the word is. But anyway, so my oldest sister got, I can't remember, maybe like 98 out of 100. And I'm like, when I get to college, I'm going to do better than that. Not because I wanted to be better than her, but I just wanted to be as awesome as she was. And so I also kind of like studied the same subjects as her purely because my older sister did this and this and this, and I want to be like her. So I feel like that's where the overachieving patterns like partly stemmed from. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And what did you do your PhD in? Because I'm wondering what the sort of connection is between what you studied and ending up in functional medicine and sort of coaching and counselling and all of that.
Yeah. So my BA was in English literature and psychology. And then when I did my PhD, it was in English literature / creative writing. But there were a lot of psychological elements in it as well. So essentially the theme topic around my PhD was using the power of words to transform self and others. So although it wasn't in the health area, it's still come full circle because it's a lot of the work that we do with our clients. Like, what are the stories and the narratives that you're telling about yourself? What are the beliefs that you have claimed to be true about you, which is all words? And how can we actually change those, rewrite those, reimagine them, and use some poetic license and some creativity, not just like mentally, but also like through your emotions and your physical body to transform yourself and essentially heal your body.
If you've been watching the news lately, it's easy to feel a sense of despair between power-hungry global leaders and absolute chaos and division.
it can feel like things are spiraling out of control. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and just to have a sense of powerlessness. But there is a way to push back. We can stop looking at what they are doing and start looking at what we can do. At Women for Homes, we firmly believe that where we put our money is making a choice for the kind of world that we want to live in. Our mission is powerful: to mobilise 1 million women to invest $5,000 to end homelessness by 2030, whilst being financially empowered along the way. It's practical, it's tangible, it's something that we can do now, and it's something that we can do to take our power back. Join us at www.womenforhomes.com. That's women4homes.com. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love the fact that you've gone from the functional medicine to the, looking even more holistically at how the emotions and beliefs that we take on do affect us and do affect how things show up in our lives. For people who are watching this and don't know what functional medicine is, could you give us a little sort of description of that? Yeah, what is it? What do you look for?
Yeah. So the grassroots of it was born out of USA. There's a lot of things out. And so practitioners who have a qualification to essentially heal, treat people. So people like clinical nutritionists, naturopaths, chiropractors, even GPs can then go on and do further study in functional medicine. And so it's still using natural therapies and alternative ways of healing. But the diagnostic tool there is we're using lab testing that goes beyond what GPs and medical specialists test for. And so we're also looking at like comprehensive gut health, detox pathways, every nutrient in the body. When you think about GP blood tests, they really only look at vitamin D and iron. And sometimes they might do B12 and B6. And that's about it. It's like there are hundreds of nutrients in our body that we need to have in order to optimize and function at our best. And so then also looking at things like adrenal fatigue. So in the medical system, you will be sent to an endocrinologist if they think you have adrenal issues, but they'll only flag adrenals as an issue if it's Addison's disease or the other word is Cushing's disease. So that's where it's like extraordinarily high or low cortisol. So functional medicine, we're not actually looking for disease diagnoses, which is what GPs and medical specialist tests are looking for. It's kind of like, do you have cancer? Do you have heart disease? Do you have even like anemia? Do you have, what's another one? Diabetes. Functional medicine is looking at what's happening before you even get those labels so that we can start supporting the body to prevent diseases. But also there's heaps of people that fall in the cracks like I did, where I felt terrible. Like my body and my mind were screaming at me, yet GP tests showed nothing. When I ran functional lab tests, they were like, yeah, there's a lot of functional imbalances. So it also, I feel like it helps to validate people's experience when they have been around to a lot of doctors and specialists and, they get the whole thing. I don't know, like it's all fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And the thing with functional medicine is it is claimed to be root cause medicine. I say claimed because we go one step deeper to actually look at like not only why, functional medicine is root cause medicine, but I found that the root causes were quite surface level in terms of the way that practitioners were trained and the way that I was originally trained, where it's kind of like, what are you eating? How are you sleeping? How are you moving your body? Do you have stress in your life? Reduce it. Change those things and your body systems will heal along with some supplements. But it's like, hang on, like what about the people who know what they need to do, but they're struggling to implement? There's some unconscious patterns and beliefs and programming that's preventing that from happening. And also, I was just noticing there were a lot of clients who were following protocols to a T, but were not budging symptoms at all. And it's like, there's something deeper happening. It's not because of your lack of desire or want or your ability to implement. at an unconscious level, the body was literally blocking the healing to happen. And so we're going like, that's why we call it the root cause.
I like that. And I remember reading that once you'd been on your healing journey, it actually helped you to rewire the stories that you had around money scarcity and helped you to establish your business as something that's really successful. Can you tell us about that part of the journey as well?
Yeah, it's so interesting because when I look back in time, money was all like scary for me for a long time. Even as a kid, I could see that there were patterns of saving. I mean, I got external praise from it because I was a massive saver, unlike any of my other siblings. And my mum and dad were always like, look at Filipa, like she's so good at saving. She never spends her money. So there was partly that going on, but there was also a deep belief, and it also connected to all my health issues and like overdoing patterns, that I was weak and incapable. And so money actually fed that or triggered that belief, because it's like, oh, I've been given all this money, or it's really hard to make money, or how do I save it, or how do I invest it? If there was a deep belief at an unconscious level that I was weak and incapable, it was showing up in my relationship with money everywhere. And it was also affecting the way that I thought about my body. Well, it's weak and incapable too, so it can never be well. I have to like manage and restrict. And it was showing up in those overdoing patterns, in that I have to try really hard to achieve and perform and do well. Otherwise, I'm going to be found out that I'm terrible. And so I think COVID really brought the money stuff to a head. Previous to that, it was still there. Like, I tried so hard in business to like make money and be profitable, but it almost felt like we just kept hitting this ceiling and we weren't moving into where it felt easeful and profitable. It was just constant, like, and I had massive scarcity around money as well. And so COVID happened. My husband had a gym at the time. His gym got locked down. And so, stream of income stopped. All my clients that I was working with at the time kind of disappeared as well, because everyone thought the world was going to end and like, can we pay for this? Like, this isn't a priority anymore. And so I developed insomnia during that time, which is actually a symptom I hadn't had in the past. And it was all based around like just freaking out that we were going to go bankrupt. And I also had a traumatic experience, I guess, when I was 14, where my parents almost did go bankrupt. We had to move from our beautiful childhood home to a highway. Now, that was distressing in itself, but also what happened is my 3 favorite cats that I had just loved, they were my best friends throughout childhood and into my early teens, they disappeared all of a sudden before we moved. And I was just like shattered. I'm like, no, I can't take my cats with me. But then I can't remember if it was a few months later or maybe even a year or so later, I found out that my dad had actually organized to have the cats put down, because it was just too hard in his mind. It's like, we can't take them to this new place. They're just going to get run over anyway. So, I would just imagine he would have had so much stress happening. So it was just a problem that he could eliminate in that way. But that betrayal, but also it cemented a belief and a story that bad things happen when you lose money. And so therefore it's like I just started holding onto it even tighter and tighter and tighter. So I was great at saving, but I was really bad at doing anything with it or making it, and I was self-sabotaging my ability to be able to grow it as well. So when I was working on the deeper belief around being weak and incapable, and it was probably 3 months into that journey of like identifying it, then really rewiring, reprogramming it, about the 3 or 4 month mark, all of a sudden our business started making an extra $10,000, which might be a lot, it might be a little for someone, but for us at that time, it was a game changer. It was all of a sudden we can pay ourselves a regular wage now, and we also have some profit. And then from there, it just continued to grow and grow. And so that was mind blowing at the time. because I didn't change anything strategy wise in the business. It was just that I was showing up with more confidence, with more ease, with more grace, which also meant that people were signing up to our program more because they're like, oh, she's someone that can help me. Like, she's obviously living it and breathing it, because my energy was different. It wasn't necessarily even that my words were different. It was my energy around what I was sharing. And then, yeah, so that's that. And I had to do like not a lot of work, but definitely work around that bankruptcy, because it was a story that kept coming up. Like, anytime I felt scared about money, it's like, we're going to get bankrupt. We're going to go bankrupt. We're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah. Oh, look, thank you for sharing that. I think that's really helpful. And one thing I just wanted to make the point of, obviously, this is called the Financially Empowered Women podcast. Most of the guests that I have to do with money in some way. So whether it's financial advisors or property investment strategists or people talking about superannuation, it's all very much about money. And so I knew that bringing you onto this podcast was going to be really valuable, because I do believe that we do have these stories about money, and until we do the work to unravel those, and often that work is, sort of the body and the mind aspect of it as well. We can know all of the strategies in the world. We can know, oh, well, yeah, that happened and that's why I feel that way. But until we actually do that deep work, the root cause, to get to the root cause, as you mentioned, we just still end up stuck. So it felt to me that I had to bring you onto the Financially Empowered Women podcast, because there's going to be a lot of women in the audience that do identify with, oh yeah, I'm feeling burnt out. Oh yeah, I'm giving a lot at work. Oh yeah, I'm giving a lot in my business, but I'm not getting it back. Why is that? What's going on? So this is perfect timing.
Yeah. And I think it's a nice piece of evidence too, that it's unlikely because of lack of knowledge or effort. It will be that there's something deeper at an unconscious level that's blocking that. And also too, if your body systems are burnt out, imbalanced, inflamed, it just makes your emotions are bigger, and your ability to make decisions and to be creative and just to feel some sort of sense of calm or certainty, that also gets compromised too, when those physical body systems are like squirting out massive amounts of stress hormones and neurotransmitters that feel like everything's very dangerous, and like you have to go 110% in order to make it work or shut down.
Yeah. So for anybody that's listening to this and sort of feeling, okay, yeah, I've got some physical symptoms going on, I've been to the doctor, but it's not really shifting, what can they do? Like, where can they go?
Well, there's a lovely book called The Ending Body Burnout. I will actually give your listeners a link where they can get a free copy of that if they want. That is a nice way of, first of all, I would go to the GP. Like, if you're worried about your health, if I have a new client starting with me and they're like, I haven't seen a GP for 20 years, I'm like, just get a good workup, just so that we know that there's nothing sinister going on, at least for my peace of mind as a practitioner, but also for yours. Then that's a good place to start. But then become your own advocate as well, and become your own researcher. So if you're getting stuck on that end where it's like, oh, your bloods are fine, or sometimes people get the message of maybe you just need to go on antidepressants, or even like go see a psychologist is not a bad recommendation, but it's not holistic in terms of looking at why your body's also screaming at you. And so, yeah, and then I do some research. As I mentioned, my book takes you through essentially the 4-step process that we take our clients through, and I've written it in a way that's really practical. So there's lots of like gold nuggets in that, where you can take what you're reading, you can start implementing implementing it in your life now. But I've also threaded through my story and 3 other women's stories throughout the book as well. And I've found that a lot of readers have found that really valuable, in that they can either see themselves in one of the women or all 3. So one, it's kind of validating that it's like, okay, yep, I'm not the only crazy one. And there's also hope, and there's a way forward in terms of being able to heal my body and my mind and what's going on for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And often what it comes down to is people feel a bit hopeless. They've tried lots of different things. Some people will say, I've tried everything. And then the symptoms haven't resolved, or they're still feeling, not great. So I love the fact that you're sharing your book and offering that for free. Thank you very much. And if people want to contact you directly, how can they do that?
So if you're like a LinkedIn person or an Instagram person, you can jump on one of our platforms and reach out through those platforms, or just engage in the content. We've also got lots of extra free resources on the website as well. So a lot of people love our scorecards. We've got one that looks at, it's an ending body burnout assessment. So it looks at the rate of the burnout, and also the 3 main contributors that lead to, so the root causes that lead to the body systems burning out in the first place. And then we've got a couple of other ones around hidden trauma, and is that connected to health issues, and also looking at the 3 core body systems that we test and treat in our clinic at a physical level. And the questionnaire there kind of like points you towards, okay, there's probably some big issues happening in the neuroendocrine system, or maybe in the gut, or maybe in the detox pathways.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, Philly. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you.